It's David from Wolf Boulders. Yo, we're into another episode. We finally finished the ding dong ones. We're going to be smashing through some freaking cladding. Holy heck, I'm excited for this. Alrighty, hey, far out. So it's going to be a bit bitsy because we've got to put some sections on, then wait for other things, but you'll see on the flow of the video. But does that make sense? Shut up! Alright, okay. Let's just talk about our plywood cladding first, okay? We've got a board and batten system going along right along the back. All the way along through here, right? Okay, that's the first cladding that we're going to be attacking. Second one's going to be our bodo. So we've got a vertical bodo that comes along through here, wraps around, and then on the front face, we have a span lock, a Euro style span lock that goes in, but we're not going to be installing that, but we'll give you tips and tricks on it. Things that need to be perfect, okay, otherwise you're going to get wrinkles in it. But anyway, back to our plywood. Okay, first things first is we need to make sure that our the way, we need to figure out what way we're laying this plywood, right? And what I mean by that is this is a 2/7 sheet of plywood, right? There's a join in it. Now I haven't seen this before, I don't know whether this is just specific brand to this, but there's a join. Now we've got to figure out what way. The join isn't just butt to butt like that. There's actually a mitre on it that going like this, and we need to figure out what way that mitre is going so we can lay the plywood the right way. And so if you come over here and have a look at my diagram, I was just showing this to Mikey before, Fabian before. Might be a bit hard to see, but we always want to think about what way our water is going, right? So if our water was coming down like this, we want our join to be facing this way. So the underneath side wants to be higher at the back, and the top side wants to be lower at the front, so no water can sort of track back up and in. If we were to do it the other way, like this, there is potential in the long term for water to come down and just seek into through here. Now I'm pretty sure that won't happen because it's probably got a 50-year warranty on it, but we want to be making precautions for this, I guess you could say. Okay, so we know what way the plywood's going. If you have a look down here, it might be a bit hard to see because we're in the dark, but the join's going this way, so this has got to be the top of our plywood. Alright, so now we've got the top of our plywood, we know what way we need to lay because we've got a lapping system here. Alright, so we need to lay our sheet first, and then the next one needs to lap on top of it. We need in this situation, we need to nail 150 centers all the way around the outside of the ply, and then 300s on the studs. So we know exactly what way the position of the board needs to go, which is really good. We finally figured that out. The next thing I was struggling with is figuring out where to actually put this join on the plywood itself. Now I just grabbed a little block like this, right? And I sort of just started looking at the details online, figuring out exactly where they want the nail. So in this situation, this is our lap join. This is the one that's going to be sitting over the top of that. And the nail needs to be 5mm back from the edge of our lap. So what I did was I just set that there, I just put a little mark, and then I put my board here. And then I sort of looked at it and I was like, okay, we want at least probably 10mm of meat on the stud, so just allowed that. And then I just put a little mark where our lap actually is going. Then I came over to this side and did the same thing. So now that's where our little mark through here is going to be pretty much on the outside of where our lap goes. And now I looked at the detail online and then figured out where they want the nail, which was about there, and then put a mark on the timber. And we've actually got 10mm on this side too, so it worked out pretty well. Now I know exactly where my laps are, I can go down there. Now that I know exactly where the edge of my lap needs to be on the stud down there, I can go down there and measure it and cut it. Now we're going to put a bead of silicone on our flashing through here, just to stop any extra penetration coming through. We're going to do that all the way up, and we've also screwed this board on, and this is going to help us sit our cladding on top and not struggle and hold it in the position at the right height. What we did was you just shot a laser line, chalk line, and then we've screwed in areas, in the same line as our nail line through here. So when we pull it off, I'm just going to whack another clouton, and it's going to be pretty hard to see. The cladding's going to be down there, and then it's painted and all that sort of stuff. So just trying to mitigate any unnecessary sexy times. All the cladding is black, and I decided to get some white silicone, so yeah, just all good. Smart ass cat. Just come away off it, and we'll just sit it on top. It's in the right spot. Should have banged that off first, eh?
What's that?
So now we'll come in, and we've got to leave all we've got to do is we've got to leave a 2mm expansion gap between the corner flashing and our timber. So we'll just come out. Fabian's just going to hold us out. I don't want to smudge that silicone, I just want to press it in against it. So, okay, I'm about 2mm there. Do you want to go in? Yeah, yeah. Whoa!
You get there?
Do you want me to measure them?
No.
Cut them? Mark all the nails out? Paint them? Bring them over? Bring them over? Put them up? Level them? And you can just stay there and tapper. That's right, that's what the fucking boss man does. Keeps fucking the ball rolling. Oh, where's my ascot? Ah, it's in Fabian's pants! I'll be riding shotgun. just made this little jig up to mark my boards. I want to mark them down here. Our markings are 150 around the outsides. And then, sorry for the wind, I fucking forgot the mic. Anyway, I've got this little jig, right? So this was my very first cut I made. I thought, fuck it, I'm just going to use this. Now, we need a specific distance off this edge because this is where our lap is. Now, obviously I've got my lap here. I'm just going to put this on. I've got this 150s. And I'm just going to, my nail needs to be off the edge of that lap a bit. So I'm just angling my pencil mark like this. So I'm getting 5 mil off. That means I'm going to come down through here. That means I'm going to be nailing through, see this? Through this point right here, solid fixing all the way through. We don't want to be nailing right here. Okay, now I can actually use this jig again, right? On this side, I need a nail along this edge too at 150s. So I can just sit that in there. Again, get my marks, 150s, right? All the way along. Now when it comes to the bottom, my mark down the bottom here is got for my bottom run is going to be 60 mil. Alright, now I'm hooking into this groove along, getting to my other 60 mil mark, and that way I know exactly where my lines are going. Now I'm doing 400, I'm actually doing 200s here, to be honest with you, because I think it's overkill. And my joists, my studs are at 400, so now I've done that, got my 400, I can actually slap this back on here again, right? 400, 400, I know, and now it's pretty hard to see on here, but I've got X's on every second line, and that's going to be the marks that I do on the center of the board, so I know exactly 3, 6, 9, 12, 300s, but yeah, so I mark it out, and then before you go, oh! Do you knock that over?
Oh shit.
We're using this Metal X timber preservative to seal all our edges. It's an LSOP system, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so that's pretty much what we're using to seal the joints before the paint goes on, instead of paint. Because I think this is a stain through here, so anyway. Alright, look at this. Fully smashed out our ply. Okay, so key things to note, make things easier, put a band board down the bottom so you can sit your plywood on, you're not struggling with the sheet, bing 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 bing. 150s around the perimeter and 300s on each stud, okay? Now you'll notice if you have a look up, I haven't fully completed the top. The reason being is I couldn't get a sheet of ply long enough from here all the way to the very top of our roof line, I guess you could say. So what I've decided to do is I've decided to keep my flashing line in line with our head flashing, so we've got a clean line all the way along, and I'm still waiting on that flashing to come, and the windows and the flashing, so you can see where, you know, yesterday I was like, we're going to be backwards and forwards, but that's okay. That's what I want, a nice clean line all the way through. So we're back on site this morning. Now we're heading back to this ply section. Well, we're back on this ply section, right? Now, unfortunately, all our flashings and stuff that are going to sit on the paper and over the top of the cladding here are coming up with all the span lock cladding. So what I'm doing is I'm wanting to prep as much as possible through here, so when it does come, I can just throw everything on. So the first things first is we're going to freaking start. We've ripped up a bunch of this because we don't have any A3.2 battens left, so we're going to go through and we're actually going to frickin' nail these on like this. You got my nail gun, eh?
That's the right one.
That's the right one? So we're just going to nail a bunch of this in place, get this in, right? Just like that. We don't want to fucking go through the roof. You hear that, Fabian?
Yeah.
We want to make sure that that's up as nice, as tight as possible to this here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these head flashings in place, put them on, and then we can actually figure out exactly where our battens and our castellated batten goes. So I'm going to run a castellated batten all the way along here. Instead of doing blocks like this, I'm just going to run a castellated batten across our whole head flashing. That way we can get fixing, our appropriate fixings for our ply all the way around. But yeah, bit of a you know, bitsy job, but we're just gonna, yeah, go ahead and do it. You know, just really get that team morale up and keep the fucking ball rolling. Hey!
Hoorah!
Now, when I'm doing these head flashings, I'm actually nailing away from the edge of this side of the flashing, because my next one is actually going to slide in and in underneath here. Then I'm just gonna tack these blocks in place. These will actually get removed when I put the flashing in. But it's good for the council inspection. We got a partial pass on our cavity wrap because we didn't have the windows in or the heads on. Now that we've got the cladding on, windows in, and well, most of the cladding on, windows in, and the head flashings in, I'm wanting them to come back, check our head flashing system, check some of the cladding, and I'm also going to get them to test the moisture on the frames on the inside, just so I know that we're going to be all good to go when we go for our pre-line. When I mean test the frames on the inside, I mean for moisture content. We have to be below about 18% moisture content in the frame. So if that's the case, if it's higher, I'm just going to get a couple of dehumids and just start fucking sucking the moisture out of it. But no point in doing that until we've got all our joinery in and everything's sort of sealed up. So now that we've sort of got our head flashings in place, castellanated batten down, and now we're putting our vertical battens on, I'm going to stick this bit of plywood on, and the manufacturer's instructions with this specific plywood here, needs to have, you want to hold that? Yeah. Needs to be at least 10 mil above the head flashing. So I'm just using this ruler, the odd rule, 10 mil up. Then I'm measuring from the underneath side of this plywood to the underneath side of this flashing, and then we can go through and cut every single one of these because they're all going to be the same all the way through here, and just have everything prepped ready to frickin' go. Yeah, for when our flashings arrive. Back on site, we're starting to put our aluminium flashings in. Look, woohoo! We've got a 1.6mm powder coated aluminium flashing that we're going to be sticking over the top of our plywood here to create our junction for our next sheet of ply that sits on top. So it's pretty much a head flashing, right? Now the situation over here, pretty much just slid it in. This is not a good example, but what I did was I pretty much did a check out in this little fin here, and then I slid the flashing as far through underneath as possible and just sealed it up with this. And then of course we'll put our tape on, pull this out, put our tape on and come along through. Now when it comes to a flashing that we're sort of joining together, we need to put a chalk line in, right? To make sure that our line is perfectly straight. I mean, it should be pretty good because our ply sat on a batten down the bottom, but this is just to double check that we're in a straight line. Now, stay there, Fabiano. actually, yeah, you're right, come actually.
Oh.
When it actually comes to joining the flashing together, there's a couple of different ways. We can easily just rip this flange off and then stick this on top like that, which is totally fine. That's a cool way of doing it. But then that way you see a lap, right? You see this part. So I sort of like to join it with a back flashing like this. And what that's going to do is I've ripped the kick out on it, and I'm just going to stick this in behind here. Put a couple of lines of sealant like this behind there. I'll just take that nail out and seal it. And then the next flashing will actually seal through there, and it'll actually butt in and keep a nice clean line. You see that? Instead of being on top like this. And that way we still have that continuous nice line. And now it might bow out a bit like that, but I like this look better than the other one. So I'm just going to go through and do that, seal it up, install it, and then we can sort of continue with our tapes, our cavity closers and our battens before we stick our ply on. Yeah, I see. Yeah, so it's a fucking... Yeah. 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 Yeah, might as well, eh? Fuck, because you start pulling one off and then another one splits and then fucking... Yeah, yeah, I got you. Okay, sweet, easy bro, no stress on that. Alright guys, so you can see I'm putting 2 strips like that, and that's just the standard way of connecting any flashings together. You want to make sure that there's at least 2 strips there, and I mean could probably do one down here just to that's probably not good, but if any water does try and get through there, come down, it's got 2 blockages. Now I'll just stick this one on. See that now? Hardly even see the join. Beauty. I love when that happens. Sexy like me. This right?
What's that?
Ply is on. We're going to do our battens, right? Now, we've got the head flashing that runs all the way through. We need to make sure we've got a check out that sits over the top of our batten like this, look. Look at that, sexy. Just like me. So we need to come up with a system that's going to be able to do this check out reasonably quickly, right? So, sort of come up with a bit of a plan. Got the drop piece set up over here, come have a look at this. There's an adjustment on the drop saw that makes sure that we're able to set our height to a certain distance so the drop saw doesn't go all the way through the timber itself. We just use that, boom. Also using this block of timber here to pack out the back of the blade, the back of the timber so I can get this run all the way through, so it's got an even cut. See that? All the way through. So now I've got to change my thing. And it's actually about a 50-degree angle for some reason. That's just what it is. So, but that's what makes it look nice on this anyway. But I have to go through and I have to readjust this again, because if I'm on a 45, it actually cuts. So this. It cuts a lot further through. See how far through it cuts? We don't want that, so I just have to readjust this to make sure that my 50-degree checkout is matching in with my vertical one. Now, we come over here, we set up this little jig. Now, it's pretty good, it works pretty well, eh?
Yo.
Just got the router set to a certain depth. The thickness of the flashing, I've actually gone a little bit deeper just to give ourselves a bit of play. We don't want it super tight. And we just pretty much slide our batten in. We've got a little wedge here just to keep the thing in place, the batten. And then literally we just go through, router this out. I'll do it right now. And when we're doing that, we want to make sure that we've got the router bit flat like this, the router bed flat on the timber. We don't want to lean it in on that like that, otherwise it's going to ruin our checkout. But we're pretty much just going to mass produce these so we can go through and stick them all up. But yeah, that's pretty much the way I'm doing it. Honestly, I tried a few different ways, and this is like the one that looked the best and it was the quickest. So yeah, let's keep fucking cutting it. Holy heck, lads, look at this. Check it out. Just our little check out there. Check it out, Funk Soul brother. Alright, let's frickin' stick it in like Fabian doesn't do on a Saturday night. Hey? Are you gonna nail yours or are you gonna stand there? It's on camera, bro. You got a chisel, we need to